Welcome to a slide presentation on safety training, fall protection, rules, parts, pieces, and uses in construction, brought to you by the American Subcontracting Association, the Houston Chapter Safety Committee. This presentation is designed to assist supervisors conducting toolbox talks or tailgate meetings. Since workers are the target audience, this presentation emphasizes hazard identification, avoidance, and control, not standards. No attempt has been made to treat the topic exhaustively. It is essential that companies tailor their presentation to the needs and understanding of their audience of workers. This presentation is not a substitute for any of the provisions of the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970 or for any standards issued by the U.S. Department of Labor. Mention of trade names, commercial products, or organizations does not imply endorsement by the American Subcontractors Association, the Houston Chapter Safety Committee. Fall protection is part of OSHA 1926-501 regulation. Every 4 minutes in the United States, someone suffers a fall injury. Fatal falls, slips, and trips took the lives of 384 workers in 2018. Ask yourself, how many times have you risked your life? This slide is about the anatomy of a fall. It takes most people about 1/3 of a second to become aware that they're falling. It takes another 1/3 of a second for the body to react, and a body can fall up to 7 feet in 2/3 of a second. A person weighing 200 pounds can accumulate almost 3,800 pounds of force when they're falling with an appropriate fall protection system. To work, your anchor point must be able to support 5,000 pounds of force. This is about the same weight as your standard pickup truck. To help understand the basic physics of a fall, this table shows your force of impact for a 200-pound person at various heights. Now, OSHA limits the amount of force that a person should experience during a fall to 1,800 pounds. Well, as you can see from the chart, in a half a second, you've already moved 4 feet and you're at 1,600 pounds. 3/4 of a second, you're moving at 16 miles an hour. At 1 minute, you're moving 22 miles an hour, and you could have 6,400 pounds of force on your body when you land. When a personal fall arrest system is used, a shock-absorbing lanyard or a fall limiter is the only way to keep fall forces under 1,800 pounds. Typical force with a shock-absorbing connecting device is limited to 900 pounds. Fall protection involves having a competent person on your staff, one who is capable of identifying existing and predictable hazards in the surroundings of working conditions which are unsanitary, hazardous, or dangerous to employees, and has authorization to take prompt corrective measures to eliminate them. Qualified persons, as defined in fall protection systems, are persons who have a recognized degree or professional certificate and extensive knowledge and experience in the subject field, someone who is capable of design, analysis, evaluation, and specifications in the subject work, project, or product. For example, a qualified person may be an engineer that delivers engineered drawings for a Lifeline system and for determining anchorage points. 3 types of fall protection methods are currently popular in construction. A fall prevention system is designed to prevent a worker from falling to a lower level. An example would be guardrails. A work positioning or fall restraint system is one that allows a worker to approach a fall hazard, conduct his work, but not allow the worker to fall to lower levels. And lastly, a fall arrest system is a design system that will protect a person from crashing onto a lower level after a fall. An example would be the fall arrest harness and lanyard system. So when is fall protection required? Well, each employee working on an elevated surface of 6 feet or more from the lower level shall be protected from falling by the use of a guardrail system, safety nets, or a personal fall arrest system. Here is a photograph of a fall hazard in construction and a common method to remedy the hazard. Here the employee is in a full body harness and using a lanyard system tied back to an engineered 5,000-pound anchor point. This is a personal fall arrest system. A fall protection plan should be done whenever fall protection equipment is in use. The plan is written so that everyone understands what to do in case of an emergency rescue. All employees involved in the use of fall protection equipment will work together to create the plan. The goal of the fall protection plan is to rescue the employee as soon as possible and limit the hanging time in a system to no more than 15 minutes. The plan needs to include for the worker to be unconscious and to ensure that all the rescue equipment is in the immediate vicinity. Always call 911 whenever someone has been in a fall arrest situation. Here is an example of protecting employees with a wooden guardrail system. On a guardrail system, the top rail must be installed at 42 inches with a plus or minus allowance of 3 inches and withstand a downward force of 200 pounds without the top edge of the guardrail deflecting. The amount of deflection can only be to 39 inches above the working level. The mid-rail needs to be installed approximately 21 inches in height and withstand without failure a force of at least 150 pounds applied in any direction at any point along the mid-rail. The toe board must be a minimum of 4 inches high and withstand a force of 50 pounds. And always remember this rule about guardrail systems. Never tie off and use a guardrail system as your anchor point. We have a responsibility to inspect guardrail systems. The photograph on the left clearly is not adequate because of gaps at the end of the rails and extensions beyond the posts. The photograph on the right shows a properly anchored and properly built guardrail system. Cable guardrail systems are sometimes used on the job and must meet minimum requirements. Cable guardrails must be 42 inches high and cannot deflect below 39 inches. A cable guardrail system has to be marked every 6 feet so that it's easily visible. It must have adequate terminations and attachments. These types of guardrail systems do require maintenance to ensure they remain functional. A common saying on wire guardrail systems is don't saddle a dead horse. Study these photographs carefully and you'll see that the correct installation method is with the dead end of the wire on top and the saddle on the bottom or the live end. This makes the guardrail strong enough for use. Ladder access is sometimes required to lower levels, and proper work planning can eliminate floor openings. The ladderway requires fall protection with a maximum opening of 18 inches to the side of the ladder or an offset entry to minimize the hazard of employees stumbling into the opening. A hole is a gap or void 2 inches or more in its least dimension on a floor, roof deck, or other walking surface. Holes in floors need to be guarded with railings or an appropriate cover. Covers must be clearly marked, secured to prevent displacement, and capable of supporting twice the intended load. All other covers greater than 12 inches shall be capable of supporting without failure at least twice the weight of employees, equipment, and materials that may be imposed on the cover at any one time. Covers must be clearly marked and secured to prevent displacement. Construction barricade tape may not be used as a guardrail around holes. Skylights and domes have their own unique hazards. Ideally, barricades are used to prevent access to skylights. If covers are provided, Again, they must support twice the intended load. The photo on the right is where a person sat on a skylight to eat his lunch and fell through. When accessing a roof, all hazards must be identified. Aerial work platforms have their own fall protection challenges. A personal fall arrest system, or PFAS, is required whenever you are working in an articulating or telescopic boom lift and bucket truck. Use the manufacturer's designated anchor points. Never use the guardrail as an anchor point. Consult the manufacturer's user manual as needed. Positioning systems are designed for use on vertical surfaces. It gives the worker the ability to work with both hands while being suspended with no free fall hazard. Typically, this application is used in vertical rebar work, but it can be used in other situations where vertical access is required. A fall restraint system assumes the employee cannot reach the edge where the hazard exists. They are basically on a short leash. If the employee can fall over the edge, then a personal fall arrest system must be used. Here are examples of restraint cables being used during deck anchoring. Remember, a fall restraint system limits the employee's ability to expose themselves to a life-threatening fall. PFAS, or personal fall arrest systems, are protective equipment used to protect an employee from hitting a lower level once they have fallen. Components include an anchor point, a body harness, a deacceleration device, and connectors that can be lanyards, rope grabs, or anchorage connectors. All components of a personal fall arrest system must be inspected by a competent person before every use and by following the manufacturer's recommendations. The anchor point of your fall arrest system is very important. Fall arrest anchor points must support 5,000 pounds per employee attached. Fall restraint anchor points must support at least 1,000 pounds per employee attached. Ask your supervisor or your safety manager if you need assistance in determining an adequate anchorage point. Removable concrete anchors are another type of manufactured anchor ring that is already designed and rated and can be used by anyone following the installation instructions. These attachments can be mounted in concrete and they're rated at 5,000 pounds in all directions. Beam clamps can make an effective anchorage when used properly and with the correct lanyard. Be sure the locking pin is inserted full length and the clamp is tight. While you may not typically use beam clamps, they are a good anchorage point. What happens when an employee reaches the end of a joist? They need a second beamer to make the traverse over the joist end, otherwise it will not meet the requirements for 100% fall protection. Some prefabricated building rafters and joists may not be suitable for the application of a beam clamp as the flange on the beam is too thin to support the potential impact. Always check with your safety professional when using beam clamps. Another example of creating an anchor point is a pass-through column choker. These are also known as a choker strap or nylon web sling. In some applications, these are provided by the general contractor for all employees to use. Termination plates are used with vertical lifelines. Follow the manufacturer's instructions and you will have a successful 5,000-pound anchor point. Here is a typical example of a full body harness. A properly fitted harness is essential to minimize the shock to the body if you're exposed to fall arrest. Harnesses do have limitations. If you are over 310 pounds or under 130 pounds, you will need specialized equipment. See your supervisor or safety representative for assistance if you do not fall within these parameters. The chest strap should be tightened at mid-chest. The leg strap should be snug but not binding. Remember to empty your pockets when using a fall arrest system. The D-ring should be located between your shoulder blades. Vertical and horizontal lifelines must have a minimum breaking strength of 5,000 pounds and be protected against the line being cut or abraded. Each employee must be attached to a separate vertical lifeline. Horizontal lifeline systems are designed, installed, and used under the supervision of a qualified person and as part of a complete personal fall arrest system which maintains a safety factor of at least 2. The horizontal lifeline is a pre-engineered and approved system. Follow the manufacturer's instructions in installation and loading. 5/8" synthetic vertical lifeline cannot be used in a horizontal application. Lifelines must be protected from cuts and abrasion. When utilizing a rope grab on a vertical lifeline, make sure the rope grab is constantly adjusted and is located above your head. A carabiner is another type of connecting device used in fall protection. Steel with a 1-inch gate and a twist lock that's marked and rated for your application. The shock-absorbing 6-foot lanyard with standard snap hooks is used on vertical lifelines and restraint lines. The positioning lanyard is just what its name implies. There's a 6-foot adjustable positioning lanyard with standard snap hooks, and this is most commonly used in a boom lift. Here we see a 100% tie-off lanyard. This particular model is a 6-foot shock-absorbing Y lanyard with rebar or pelican type hooks. These are commonly used on frame scaffolding. Here we see an example of the retractable lanyard, self-retracting lifeline, commonly referred to as a yo-yo. When using retractable lanyards, be aware of the hazard of swing falls. When the retractable lanyard is extended, make sure you are not able to fall where the lanyard cannot stop you from falling more than 2 feet. That is why it is important to use the proper equipment of fall arrest systems. Employers are responsible to provide training for specific personal fall arrest systems and any other site-specific equipment that must be used. Personal fall arrest systems should only be used when other fall prevention means cannot be used or are not feasible. This diagram shows the way to calculate your total fall distance. You add the length of the lanyard plus the deacceleration distance plus the height of the worker, which is generally the height of the D-ring and harness stretch, plus a safety factor. In the diagram above, the total fall distance with this system would be calculated to 18.5 feet. Personal fall arrest equipment must be stored correctly. Notice in the picture at the top right, neatness. All the equipment is hanging up. It can air out after every application each day. The bottom pictures show fall protection equipment that is not being treated with the proper respect. In some applications, we are allowed to use a safety monitoring system. This system is only to be used in conjunction with one of the following systems: warning lines, guardrails, or a controlled access zone. A competent person must be on the same working surface as all working employees. The competent person can have no other duties but to observe. This system is to be used on low-slope roofs only, and to be used in conjunction with warning lines or controlled access zones. Your employer, if using this system, will give you proper training. Whenever working at heights where there is a potential of hanging from a harness after a fall, a written fall protection plan must be done and employees trained on the plan. The goal of rescue is to get the employee down as soon as possible and limit the hanging time to no more than 15 minutes. You need to plan for that worker to be unconscious. You need to pre-plan and ensure that all rescue equipment is in the vicinity of the work. And remember to call 911 whenever someone has been in a fall arrest situation. Thank you for watching. And that concludes our presentation on fall protection, sponsored by the American Subcontracting Association, Houston Chapter Safety Committee.